Hey everybody, welcome back to another book review on creativity. There's a secret about being a creative that people never tell you. It's this secret that kind of runs in the undercurrents of what it means to make things with your hands, construct worlds with your mind, and bring things into reality that which were not before. And the secret is this: it's not about how good you are, it's about how good you want to be. Today's book is just that. It's a book by a guy, his name is Paul Arden. He was in the advertising world for many years and then he passed away, as people do. As per my last video, we're all gonna die. The book he wrote is the one that we're gonna be going over today. It's called It's Not How Good You Are, It's How Good You Want to Be. And not only being the book with the longest title I've ever read, it's also one of the books that has inspired me most to create. We're going to talk about 5 different aspects of the book. You're going to want to stick around all the way to the end because I think the last point really is the thing that sets apart average creatives from great creatives. It's a very satisfying book to read because you flip 2 pages and you're like, wow, I read a chapter for the day, you know? Those of you out there that don't really enjoy reading this book would be great for you. And as always, you can pick up the book in the link and a pickety-pick. You can pick up the book in the link below. The first point in the book that I want to address is this: you have to achieve the unachievable. When thinking about talking about this chapter, I immediately thought of the Roger Bannister mile. This is one of the most fascinating little tidbits of history. Roger Bannister was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. People thought there's no way, it's absolutely impossible for a human to break a sub 4-minute mile, and then he did it. And once he did it, it's like it opened up the floodgates for other people to do it as well. And something that people thought was impossible before has become this kind of like crown jewel of running achievement, breaking the 4-minute mile. Same thing we see with Eliud Kipchoge. I'm just talking about a bunch of runners. Eliud Kipchoge, he was the first person in history to break a sub 2-hour marathon. These are athletic feats that people once thought impossible to break. Once they were broken, it broke down the paradigms of what was possible and what was impossible, what was achievable and what was unachievable. And that's the kind of mindset that we have to have about ourselves. We're far too quick to put ourselves in these little cookie cutter boxes of what we're able to do and what we're not able to do. Or to put it another way, what we're able to achieve and what we're not able to achieve. Similar to what Steven Pressfield said, in order to go pros, you have to see yourself as a professional. Same thing with Paul Arden, is you have to believe that you are the kind of person that can achieve great things, which is a very daunting reality when you consider our own feeble lives and what we're currently skilled at versus what we want to be more skilled at. This is a perfect example. If you watched my first video, look, things are on the up and up, let me tell you what. But I believe that as long as you're putting in the time and the energy consistently, that there really is nothing outside of your reach. So that is the first idea, believing that you can achieve the unachievable. The second idea is that every project that fails, every piece of art that you have to scrap, every disappointed client, all of that is our fault. The title chapter he uses is "It's All My Fault." And this really is the idea of taking radical ownership of the mistakes that we make. Oftentimes we want to justify our own inadequacies based off of the cards that we've been dealt, perhaps. But again, to the first point, if we can achieve the unachievable, we have to take ownership of where we currently are at. Part of the reason why we tend to shirk the responsibilities of taking ownership for our own mistakes is because we are dreadfully insecure. We're dreadfully insecure. We don't want people to view us as someone who isn't a person of their word or any other reasonable excuse as to why something is outside of our control. But what we can control is the time and intentionality we put towards every single thing. And that doesn't mean that we don't make mistakes. I'll talk about that here in a second. But it means that when things go awry, we are the ones to take full responsibility of the mistakes that we make. And what that necessitates is a security within oneself to know that, you know what, that failed project, that failed idea or business is not what's going to define me as I step into tomorrow. So again, the first point is to achieve the unachievable. The second point is to take full ownership of mistakes. The third point is to not over-promise things. I don't know if you're like me, but I'm like, oh, I want to get more fit. Maybe if I run a 5K every single day for the next month, then I'll be fit and everything will be good. I have this all or nothing approach. But what I found, part of the reason I have an all or nothing approach is because I'm insecure of that middle, that liminal space between not being fit and being fit, or not being a creative and being a creative. That middle ground is often where most of us find ourselves. And what we tend to do, we try to project our capacities onto people as if we're some expert of the trade, when in reality, we're in process. We're still learning how to do these things. And what I found, the best practice for this is to undersell and over-deliver. And what I mean by that is setting the expectations low and I'm delivering on more of the promise. Look, I've been here. I've been the person who's overcommitted and underdelivered because I've been too insecure to admit how long a project is going to take, how beautiful a project is going to be, or how it's actually going to serve a certain clientele. And that's why it's crucial to undersell and overdeliver, and in doing so, what you're conveying is your own current limitations, but you're also expressing the excellence that you carry within your creativity. So that's the third point. Don't promise something that you can't deliver on. And the fourth point is honestly the best creative advice anyone could ever give you. The person who doesn't make mistakes is unlikely to make anything at all. We all run from mistakes. We run from the mistakes that we make. We've talked about this many, many times. But the reason why people don't start the things that they actually want to do, the creative ventures, the endeavors that they want to engage in, is because they want to be further along than they actually are. I want to be further along than I actually am. But what you come to realize about anyone who's creative is that you have to make hundreds and hundreds more mistakes than you think you're going to need to make in order to become great, the way that you desire to become great. And the thing about making mistakes is that if we have a fear of making those mistakes, it will actually inhibit us from starting the things that we want to start. I'll give you an example of this. One time I was listening to Jacob Collier. He's a singer, songwriter, composer. He's brilliant. I remember he was talking about the creative process of how he writes songs. And one of the ways that he gets kind of those ideas flowing is that he sits down and he tells himself, okay, I'm about to write the worst song possible. And I love that preface. You sit down and you go, okay, I'm going to make the worst quilt in the world. Or I'm going to sit down, I'm going to write the worst song, the most boring song possible with the most basic melodies, or I'm going to draw something, but it's literally going to be the most terrible drawing that I could ever imagine. And that's the kind of rationale, that's the kind of mindset that you have to put yourself in, is you go, okay, I'm going to set my expectations incredibly low. And in doing so, I'm giving myself space to be playful, to be creative, to make something, and to make a bunch of mistakes. And in doing so, you let those mistakes inform your creativity towards the goal of the person who you want to become. God, I'm done. See you. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm just kidding. You thought I was actually going to leave. No, I can't leave. I'm not done. I've got one more point. And in sum, that is the fourth point. Those who are unwilling to make mistakes, they're not going to make anything at all. Which leads us finally to the fifth point. And the fifth point, honestly, I believe, is the most crucial point that really separates what it means to be a good artist to being a great artist. And it's this: it's not about what you know. It's not about how skilled, how talented, how gifted you are. It's about who you know. And this is what's frustrating, because oftentimes we use this language and we call it politics. Oh, you know this person and therefore you got it, your foot in the door. And oh, you know them, so of course you've got these opportunities and such. But it really does emphasize the fact that we are social beings. We are people who are reliant on other people, and we're going to be more willing to work with people that we know, that we have good rapport with, that we have decent relationship with, people that are easy to talk to, good to laugh with and banter with. Those are the kind of people that creatives want to be working with. Creative directors and people who are sourcing any sort of creative person, they're not looking for someone who is just the most gifted, full stop. They want someone with personality, someone who's able to connect, have a laugh, jive with other people, because it's through those relationships that we're able to make steps towards the dreams and goals that we have in our own lives. And that's why, to bring it all the way back around to the good old secret sauce of Austin Kleon, it's why you have to make the good work, and then you have to share that work with the people around you. If you're not sharing the work that you've made with other people, no one's gonna know who you are. And if you really do have that yearning, that desire to put something positive back into the world, to create something, and you have to use the community that you have been given to make connections with people who are in your field. And while that sounds like, oh, networking, oh my gosh, I don't want to be that person who's disingenuous and not. It's not about being disingenuous. It's about making friends. And here's the great thing. Even if you make friends, you make the connections, and you never use them, you've still added to your repertoire of connection and the people around you that very well could support your creative endeavors in the future. And I've said it once, I've said it 100 times. You can know all the right things, have all the right phrases and skills, but if you don't have the connections, you're never going to get into the room with the kind of people that you want to get into the room with. So practically, what does that actually mean? Well, what I'd encourage you to do, take an improv class, go expose yourselves to how to engage with people more fluidly, how to make connections, how to have a laugh. It's those human aspects that really poise us to the opportunities that we all hope for and long for in the future. And if you've watched this far, I'm going to land the plane with a quote. At the end of the book, he has a bunch of quotes from creative people, and I think it's brilliant. And it says this: those who lack courage will always find a philosophy to justify it. So go achieve the unachievable. Take complete ownership of the faults that you've made. Don't overpromise, but undersell and overdeliver. Be the person who makes more mistakes than the people around you so that you can learn more than the people around you, and then share that art and make relationships with others, because it's through those relationships that you realize life is so beautiful. Thanks so much for watching this. If you want to watch more of my videos, click here or click there or click wherever. And don't forget to pick up your copy of It's Not How Good You Are, It's How Good You Want to Be by Paul Arden. Alrighty, I will see you later. Bye.